right. Hello, one, and hello, all. I thank you for coming today. My name is Usubeni Yume. I'm honored to be your host in the place you've been looking for all your life. Welcome to the other side. We are joined today by the cute and charming Pastel the Snake. So, would you please, very kindly, hashtag plug yourself?
You say it so like normal, and Merlin's always just like hashtag plug yourself, bro.
Give me anything
um,
to say and I'll make it normal.
I am Pastel the Snake on Twitch and Twitter. I do a bunch of different kinds of streams. Eyes on Mini Makers this Monday. Blah blah. Um, so I do Gundam building on my channel as well. Um, but yeah, done a lot of collabs this week with Windham and stuff too. So that was really fun.
Funny stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sad I didn't get to join you guys.
I will say, my stream is 18 plus, so if anyone's coming, make sure that you are of age, because it's definitely quite a lot of inappropriate banter, which I will hold my tongue for today.
But it's educational though, right?
Definitely 100%. For ad revenue reasons, it is definitely educational through and through.
Exactly. So there you guys go. And so, as you know, we are a talk show. And the first set of questions are going to be about you, Pastel. So if you are ready, we can jump straight on in there.
What if I just said I wasn't? And that was the whole podcast, was just me saying I wasn't ready for any of the questions that you have.
And what we do is we send some Amazon drones to come and pinpoint your place, and you just have to die. Sorry.
Just a freaking drone strike.
Yeah, Jeff B doesn't wait for any man or girl, nor snake. He's ruthless.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right. So, what is your history and experience with Dungeons and Dragons?
So I've been playing for super long time. When I was in 8th grade, which, oh god, how long ago was that? Jeez, how old are you in 8th grade? You're like 12, right?
Around
So
there, I think.
that's like 11
Yes.
years ago. I went to my local library and I joined oh, a sub!
Ooh,
Yay!
nice.
Sorry. I get distracted very easily.
It's okay.
Yeah, at my local library they had a D&D club. It was a lot of older adults, honestly. But they were very cool, and they helped me and my sister learn how to play the game. I played a ranger with a hawk because I liked animals. Um, and my sister played a lightning sorcerer, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Interesting.
I've been playing since then. I kind of dropped off during high school just because everything got really chaotic with like classes and sports and stuff. And then my freshman year of college, I joined the board gaming club. And the president of the board gaming club was looking for players for an evil campaign called Way of the
Ooh,
Wicked for Pathfinder.
nice.
So we played that, and I played a halfling rogue. His name was Apophis, and we all had to have a crime to start out the game, because that's how you start the game. You start the game in prison with the other players, and you guys break out, right? And so my crime was human trafficking and organ stealing, because
Nice.
in the Pathfinder lore, halflings were subjugated by the human race and are used as slaves in many households. And so she was like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna turn it upside down." And the humans became under her. So she was really cool. Liked her a lot.
That is quite interesting, and I really wonder how she got to that point.
She had a whole backstory. It was a lot.
Mm. But
I
that's so
loved her.
cool. You are very much my Dai senpai. You've been playing much longer than I have, and I have a lot to learn from you when it comes to D&D. But that's so cool that
Well,
you were able to meet some fellow D&Ders back when you were 8, and they were kind enough to let you join and stuff.
yeah. I think a big part of that is that this community is so like welcoming, especially like back then before Critical Role was a big thing, before
Mm.
uh, like the Adventure Zone podcasts weren't even really like that big back then. Um, People just wanted to play, you know, and they were willing to like bring in really anybody. And
Mm.
that's I think what really helped us back then was that like we really felt included by the community.
Mm.
So
And so that kind of leads into my next question, which is, what do you enjoy most about playing Dungeons and Dragons?
um I have always been someone who role plays online. Uh
Mm-hmm.
don't look up my old stuff, it's really bad. um but like fictional characters, writing stories, that's always been my thing.
Mm.
And I wasn't very good at world building for myself. um so finding a good DM where I can write the story for just like my character, like
Mm.
it's probably the best experience that I've gotten for being able to do those kinds of things.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
definitely does.
yeah.
All right. So when you play characters, do you really live through your characters and experience what they feel?
Yeah, it's actually caused quite a few problems for me in the past
Mm.
because I will get very upset if certain things don't go like the way that I want them to. And what I mean by that is like um oh god, what's an example? So like um for a character I'm playing right now, there was a point where I thought I had killed an NPC that I really, really liked, right? And I didn't want this NPC to die, like out of character. And I got really upset with myself, and I just like almost caused a panic attack. And like the character didn't die, like he pulled this miraculous like ex machina escape, right, and all this stuff, but like I felt really bad about it in my head because I was like, oh
Mm.
no, like I did this really bad thing and I can't take my actions back because like that's how the game works, is that you know your actions have consequences, and if they don't, then like what's the point in any decision making, like so I felt really bad. So yeah, I
Mhm.
take it a little too personally, unfortunately. But
Very much a method actor.
yes.
Mm. That's definitely a double-edged sword when it comes to playing your characters for sure.
I will say for the most part it works out.
Mm. Yeah. And I believe I play Lucy somewhat the same, where I really get into it. And especially when, an event like that happened, I even felt myself like, I got a tear in my eye, had to wipe it off. But yeah. And so my next question is, what is one future goal for you when it comes to role playing slash Dungeons and Dragons slash tabletop RPGs in general?
I mean, I don't really have any goals except to keep playing, honestly. Like I have so much fun um just being a part of it. Like I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, I think definitely just playing with other people and creating a story that you don't know how it's going to end is something that excites me as well. Okay, so the next set of questions are going to be focused on your character, Matif. So once again, I will ask you, No guns to your head, just Amazon drones. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think um yeah, okay. I gotta get in the mind space, but I got it.
Okay, okay. So without giving too much away, what is going on through Matif's head after the last episode?
Oh god. Um I think there's a lot about um destiny and fate that's kind of being mulled over because um when Matif was really young, he had like these big dreams, right? To do I don't feel like I'm giving too much away by giving away a little bit of the backstory for you guys. Is that like he wanted to be a naval officer and he wanted to protect his land, right? So he wanted to be like a soldier sailor kind of person, and then those were kind of dashed, right? Like he felt like he had this destiny to do something great, and then I'm not going to tell you how, but he became a pirate, right? And then it felt like his worldview changed with these people who are very free will driven, right? Like very like I will make the choices I want and I will live the life I want, right? And
Mhm.
it became like his outlook that like it doesn't matter what the future held. Like I make my decisions for who I am. I am like fully my own person, right? And it gave him a lot
Mhm.
of his self-confidence. He kind of like really bolstered up his personality as like
Mhm.
himself.
Mhm.
Um and now, after that last episode where we were talking a lot about prophecy, and then obviously that woman in the dark space that was telling him that like when he was ready, he had this like job to do, right? It
Mhm.
kind of brings back that idea that like there's no way out, right? Like there will always be these destined points, and no matter how much he tries to like get out of them, um, they're always going to happen, right? And I think it's kind of scary because he also doesn't know like what those points are. Like at least if he knew, he would know like if he wanted to go towards them, if you know, those were goals that he had, if he wanted to like actively work and be that kind of person. But like the fact that it's completely unknown, as well as the fact that like he feels trapped in like this um in the storyline, quote unquote, that we're going towards it. I think it's creating a lot of like personal turmoil, which is not helped by the antagonizing of other characters.
Whoever
um
would that be?
I don't know who that would be. um um but yeah, I feel like that got a little deep. But
No, that's very good. Yeah, that's very interesting because I am reading a book, and one of the points that it talks about is if you're presented with a fate, whether it's a good fate or a bad fate, how would you react? Like, are you going to just kind of cry in the corner and just wait for it to happen, or are you going to fight against it, or are you going to embrace it? So I think that I'm very excited to see how Matif comes to terms with that and what he decides to do.
I am also very excited, especially because this is the first character that I've played that is very like um strong in their identity. Like
Mm-hmm.
really knows who they are, really knows what they want. Um
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like this kind of falters that a little bit because it's
Mm-hmm.
like I know who I am, but do I know like uh what's coming from me, right? Like is that going to
Mm-hmm.
make me a different person? Um
Mm-hmm.
which I'm really excited to play out as a character. I don't know if I like said this already, but like one of my favorite parts of playing a character is getting confused about like what's gonna happen next, because it's
Mm-hmm.
fun to like write a story and be a different person, right, and pretend whatever. But I think it's more fun when you find out that you don't know who you are anymore and you have to go searching for that again. And that's what I'm really excited about with this. With this next episode, I think, I don't know if it'll come out as much unless like the big fight between Lucy and Matif finally comes to a head. But I think over the next couple of sessions, it's going to become more clear that like there's going to be more questions that I have to ask myself about my character, which is probably digging a little too deep into it. I'm probably overthinking it slightly, but you know what I mean.
I think that's always a part of playing Dungeons and Dragons is really coming, or what is the word, rolling with the punches and seeing what happens. And then we did talk a little about Lucy and Matif, but we will save that a little bit for later, just because I know it's a juicy topic.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll.
No problem. I was gonna ask you some questions, but I'll stop myself too, and save that for a little bit.
I'll put that piece of candy in a little box, and we'll open it later.
Yes, we will, and enjoy it very much. So we're going to ask you some fun questions now.
Ooh.
So this is also for Matif. If Matif had to choose one character from the group to be stranded on an island with, who would he choose?
I think he'd pick Emmett. Not for the reason you're thinking, although I definitely ship it. Because you laughed. We all know.
So now we have a Lucy Emmett and a Matif Emmett rivalry now?
Yeah, it's a triangle.
Ooh, interesting.
But I think he would pick her because or wait, am I picking it or is he picking it?
Matif is choosing. Or you, well, you can give both answers. Whatever you feel like you'd choose and whatever Matif would choose.
Well, Matif would definitely choose Emmett because she also has a lot of knowledge about the sea, which I think comes very handy. Because I think he would think that Dante's too much of a city slicker. I don't think he would like to spend a lot of time with Lucy alone. And I think he thinks Aoife's a little too innocent.
What about our boy Amesh?
Amesh, actually, I didn't put him on the table because I'm just looking at the characters on the side of the screen. But he might pick Amesh too, because he knows that Amesh has druidic magic, which means that could be super helpful for them in survival. Because I think
until Matif got annoyed with Amesh.
I think the thing about Amesh though is that, like, I mean, sure, he's definitely getting annoyed. Is that like he spends so much time by himself surfing that Matif would have enough of a breather where he's like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and sorry, I interrupted your last thought.
Oh god, I don't even remember.
That's okay. We can move on to the next question.
Sure.
So the next question, one character from the group that Matif has to pirate with. And just for the sake of the answer, we will exclude Emmett from this answer.
Yeah, I was thinking. That's a hard one. Because
who do you think would be the best pirate with Matif?
I think he'd pick Lucy. I think that Lucy also has a pretty good sense of identity. He knows what he's fighting for, even if he doesn't go about it the right way. But Although, I don't know. I don't think he feels like Lucy plays with a team very well.
Hmm.
I think he thinks that Lucy's a little out for himself.
That's interesting. That's so interesting to hear you say that.
Well, yeah, because I don't think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of the things that Lucy fights for are big efforts, right? For like,
Mm-hmm.
for almost like for humanity, right? Like social, um, like let's pull out the child warriors, right? Like with that, it feels like that's not something you fight for when you're totally self-centered. And so, like, I, out of character, feel like Lucy is a very big team player, but I think Matif thinks that he's a little, uh, what's the word? Not like backstabby, but like, if given the moral choice, he would pick himself. Does that make
And that
sense?
is, yes, it does make sense. And the reason that's so interesting to me is because, once again, out of character for me as well, is that Lucy thinks probably the same exact thing of Matif. Like
And
he
you're
probably
right.
also thinks that Matif is just like selfish and he doesn't really care about anyone else. And it's so funny that they're basically looking at themselves in the mirror and be like, "Who is that guy?" That is so interesting. And so that will lead me up to the next question. So it can definitely be said that Lucy and Matif are both very strong characters in the sense that their presence and actions often end up changing the ebb and flow of the group and its direction. And so what are your thoughts on like their dynamic in the group?
Do you know anything about group therapy?
Regale me. I do not.
That's okay. I mean, I'm a psych student, so I know. I bet it's not very common knowledge. But there are 4 stages to any group, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a forming stage. Oh no. I'm really worried to see what the next chat is says. Not gonna lie. There's the forming stage where you bring a bunch of people together. Okay. um, and then they form bonds with each other. There's the norming stage where they create specific rules that everybody works with, right? There's the
Mm-hmm.
storming stage where ideals mesh and people come head to head, right? Start arguing.
Mm.
Um, and then there's performing, right? So to get to the stage where performing, everyone's working together the best that they can, you have to go through storming. And I
Mm.
think Matifa and Lucy are really going to catalyze that for us,
Mm-hmm.
because it brings into the spotlight what everyone's thinking behind the scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like everyone's got uh, these biases, these judgments about each other that no one's going to say out loud because it's not something that needs to be said. But I think because Matif and Lucy are such loud characters and they're very willing to talk about um, like what's up, if not unhealthily, right? But start yelling at each other in the middle of town square, like honestly. Uh,
Mm.
I forgot the original question, but I think that that will help the group to understand each other on more than just a basic level
Mm-hmm.
of personality.
That is so interesting how you presented that concept. And I'm so glad that you're a psych student. I love that for you. Because that was a really good description of what is basically happening right now. And I'm sure Merlin's taking notes. He's gonna get more notes from the psych student and see how he can best mess with their minds. But I definitely agree with you that Lucy and Matif are definitely the loudest ones. And in general, most of the group is fairly neutral, and they don't take too much sides or stick their heads out too much. And so Lucy and Matif will really bring that out of the rest of the group as well, and say those things that are currently unsaid. That's so interesting. I'm glad you're a psych student. Okay. So this next set of questions is campaign focused. And so the next question, what are you specifically looking forward to in the campaign? Without spoiling too much for your character.
I am always excited to see backstory come to life. Uh, I think Matif doesn't have a very intricate backstory. A lot of it is just like small events that have happened, and some of it's already come to light as of the last episode, where like his whole crew drowned at one point. And he has to live with the survivor's guilt of that to an extent. And he has kind of, I'm totally going off topic here. He has kind of masked that survivor's guilt as like I will like live on in their memory. And so I think last session really pushed that for him too, was that like I am doing this not only for myself, but for everyone that I've lost before. So with like those events, as well as some of the things that happened before he became a pirate, I'm really excited to see them, like the character interactions from like past, from like, I don't know how to explain it, but like bringing in characters that one of us has already seen, or like one of us has a relationship with, and the others have to work around that. So like even with like one of you guys, if someone came in from your past and was like had a negative reaction towards them, like how would I interact with that person based off of who the person is, what their relationship with the party is, like who the person in the party they have a relationship with, right? Like all of those fun dynamics of characters that I think really throw the story forward. I realize I sound really pretentious right now. That's not what I but I really like that I like character interactions, and so looking forward in the campaign, like it's always fun to have like high stakes, high fantasy. Like that's always what I'm looking for in a campaign, and like prophecies are cool, and like big fights are amazing, and all of that, like super fun stuff. But I'm always looking towards who we are as people and who we're going to become and how we get there. And I think that's the most fun part of the journey, is meeting new people, especially people that we already have relationships with, and working together like to like become a better either character or group, like party. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's such a psychology thing to say. And I'm actually kind of curious. Did your love for Dungeons and Dragons kind of inspire Dungeons and Dragons and role playing in general inspire you in any sense to pursue psychology?
It did kind of push me towards like creative writing and storytelling, which tangentially pushed me towards children's book writing, funny enough. And I was thinking about going into education, and then I decided that I would rather be like a counselor. like a
Mm-hmm.
child counselor. So that's what I'm going
Mm. Interesting.
for. Not as fun as like D&D led me to be a whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
tangentially, kind of.
Interesting. And so I had a question for you before, but I want to tweak a little bit to kind of adjust to this new information of you being a psych student. So, if you'd like to, can we psychoanalyze some of the characters in this group?
Sure. I will say that I only have a bachelor's, so I can't like technically do not take all of this with a grain of salt, is what I'm saying.
Mm, that's totally fine. So we'll start in any order you'd like to.
Well, I've got them up on the side with the widget, so let's go in that order. So Emeth is first.
Okay.
From what I know about Emeth, she is very outspoken. So she's obviously had role models in her past that have shown her that having a strong sense of identity is important. I'm going to say that about like the three of us, I guess, where
Mm-hmm.
uh, she's learned who she is and what she, well, I guess in a D&D sense, like fights for.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously has a drinking problem and has stated that it is to forget about certain events of the past, which is not
Mm-hmm.
uncommon, by the way. A lot of people become alcoholics with an intent to numb whatever pain they feel of
Mm-hmm.
past events. Usually it's guilt,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't always have to be. So I will put out their prediction that Emeth is guilty. She feels guilty about something.
Mm.
Um,
Interesting.
she is very sexually promiscuous,
Mm-hmm.
or at least flirtatious, which usually is a sign of early maturity. So having to not go through physical maturity early, but having to go through emotional maturity early. So usually it is like loss of a parent, or sometimes it's like having to move around a lot, having to put yourself out there. So like a lot of what's a good example? I mean, the best example is like when you lose a parent, right? And then you have to start taking care of your siblings. That's so you have to really mature to a point where like you can help be a part of the household in a caretaking capacity. Um, so that could have been a factor in that. Or, I mean, because she has such a high sense of identity, it could just be that she just went through the process of learning um, her sexual identity as well and has embraced that to its fullest, which is true. So I would say that she probably has a very clear sense of her sexual identity uh, in like a queer sense, if that makes sense. Like she
Mm-hmm.
knows what she
Yeah.
wants and how to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Trying to think of some other stuff that I know about her.
I think that's a
Yeah, I
very good
think
analysis.
yeah, I'll leave that there for a minute.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about Dante, I'll be honest. I feel like he's very soft spoken.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which usually means that either he had friends who were more loud and boisterous, or
Mm-hmm.
that he was punished um, for trying to speak his mind in the past, either by
Mm-hmm.
his parents or maybe like legally. So I would say that there's probably something that's holding him back from speaking his mind more often. He becomes flustered very easily, as we saw when he woke up in his room with all of those women, which makes me believe that he has a high level of anxiety. He seems to care a lot about social judgments from other characters, as well as, I mean, we haven't seen a lot of NPCs where he's had to speak, other than when you pushed him to talk to that one wine person. And I'd say that he has very definitive morals. He did kind of fight back when we tried to get him to lie to that wine person. And so it shows that, like, he knows what's right and wrong, at least for him. I'll come back to Matif, because I feel like I'm going to have a lot to say about that one, since I know the most about him.
Yes.
Lucy, I feel like he's been wronged in the past. He definitely has a sense of things need to be brought to light, and I'm the only one who can do that. Which usually means that he has a sense of importance. So he believes that he is important to the world, which is good. I'm not saying that that's bad. You should feel that you are important to the world. But he has kind of made it unhealthy to the point where he is kind of inflated his ego to the point where no one can help me with this. I have to do it because, no one will be there for these people except for me. I think that he is, he's the total opposite of what I was saying about Dante. He's totally unflustered. He doesn't seem to care about the social implications of judgment. So he takes risks to because he doesn't care about the backlash as much as someone like Dante, who obviously is avoiding it, would. He's willing to lean on others, and he's willing to let others lean on him, which is a good trait. It usually means that he's had healthy relationships in the past, especially with, like, parental figures. I feel like I'm just spouting nonsense at this point.
Let me tell you that you are pretty much 100% correct on your observations, and that's really impressive.
Kind of going back to the whole believing that he's the only one who can help people, it also shows that he has a very strong sense of purpose, because he knows what he's fighting for. And I'd honestly say it's even more strong than Emeth, because he obviously sees something, so, like, sees the injustice of, let's again take the example of, like, the kids who are being forced into military work and whatever, and he immediately knows what he needs to do, because it's not even a question in his mind. Like, these are the things that he is here for, and, like, he is here to be the protector of, like, these people. And then I'm gonna leave Lucy there. I'm gonna put him back in the box.
Okay.
And we'll go with Aoife. Again, I don't feel like I know much about Aoife. She's soft-spoken. So, even in, like, a vocal sense, that usually, means that she has been either ostracized for having an opinion, or she's been again like reprimanded for being too loud in her personality. She has a strong connection to a deity, so that means that she gets, well, again, this is a lot of grains of salt here. I don't want to say that this is the character, but usually when there's a strong sense of religion in someone, it means that they hold a lot of their identity with that group. So basing a lot of character traits not only on the immediate like people in their life, but on the values and identities of the religion that they take part of. Which in okay, I need to preface this by saying that I am not very religious person. I am pagan, so I'm not here to criticize any of the major religions. So that can either be a really good or a really bad thing, because if what you stand for is, you know, a positive interaction with the world, then that really strengthens your personal characteristics for those things. But then obviously if you're identifying with a group that is more negatively impacting the world, then you're strengthening those personality characteristics in somebody. It does mean that she's more suggestible. But she has a strong connection with the people that are in her circle. So either us or maybe someone from her past or someone from her church. She would be very willing to listen to others and others' opinions, but is probably very skeptical based on who is saying, if that makes sense. So if I were to make a guess, I would say that connections to other people are very strong for her. They're very important. And that her sense of purpose and identity comes from a like source of interpersonal connection. Which means that trust is very important to her, whether easily given or not. Yeah. And then coming to Matif, he's haughty to a fault. He's grown up with people who are very willing and open about their opinions, and who have encouraged the honest and blunt communication points that are not always socially acceptable. Which also means that he does not care about the social implications of what he's going to say. He has trust issues from losing a lot of people in his life, which means that he's more of a lone wolf. Like, in the end, it will come to a question of whether it's something he wants. So earlier when we were talking about, you know, if it came down to a question of like if Lucy would pick himself over the group, Matif thinks that Lucy would pick himself, and then Lucy also thinks Matif would pick himself, which I think is very funny. Because out of character, I think Lucy would pick the group, and Matif would pick himself.
Interesting.
Right now, especially because our group hasn't like fully formed together yet, I think. Once we do fully form, I think that will be the point where Matif is like, okay, my personal, like, what is best for me right now is what's best for everybody. And that's when it will change from, a a me-centric world to an us-centric world. Something big in psychology is an us versus them mindset, which everyone kind of has to an extent, but what I mean by that is us versus them is a concept of like, this is an identity that I have. Anybody who doesn't have that identity is a them. And it's a level of like whether of kind of a fighting between whether that identity is important. And if that identity is important to me, how much that changes who they are versus who I am. And right now, the us versus them is Matif versus the world. Because he did put a lot of time and effort and energy into making these relationships, sustaining this lifestyle with these people, right? And he really grew into himself on this ship with these people that he spent years with, right? And then lost everything overnight. And so there's a point where you're like, is it worth it anymore to try to put in that energy and to try to build that from the ground up with new people, right? And it's like, he's kind of told himself, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm doing that, it's fine, when really he's kidding himself, right? Like, that's, you have to put in the effort. Like, just standing there is not getting us anywhere. There has to actually be a point where you decide, like, these are people that I'm willing to, you know, take sacrifices for. And right now, he's not. I realized that I got a little too far into this.
Been perfect.
Other things about Matif. We already kind of talked about the whole free will thing. Because I think he's definitely confident in his decisions, believing that they are important. He does not have a very big sense of purpose, and you'll be able to tell that a little bit more going forward because he's going to have a lot of questions about identity in the next couple of sessions. But yeah, I think, yeah. A lot of it is guessing.
Done.
A lot of it, I'm gonna be honest, don't go up to Astrid and be like, well, Emeth is this and Emeth is that, because I'm not saying that. This is all, because psychology is such, oh fuck, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant. I will come back to Amesh in a second. I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a rant, because psychology is so subjective. Because you can never really know what's going on inside someone's head. A lot of psychology is based on what you tell me is going on, right? So I can guess, right? If you come into a psychology experiment and you say, this rabbit makes me anxious, right? I have to take you on your word with that because I can't. There's no way for me to like do an X-ray and tell you, oh yeah, that rabbit makes you anxious, right? And so even with like certain things that are uncomfortable for people to talk about, we're never gonna really know until like we can get enough data from people who aren't scared to talk about it, right? Like with things that are negatively construed, right? Like selfishness. I'm trying to think of another adjective that a lot of people like cowardice. Like these things are usually negatively construed. People are unwilling to say that they identify with those traits, even though they probably do to an extent in a healthy way, right? But because those things are considered negative or unhealthy, people are less willing to state that they feel them, right? So if I were to say like, oh, you seem very cowardly because of these traits, right? Like, oh, I think you would run away from a fight because of these things. I can't really say that because first of all, you have to give me that information. But also, like, it's never a done deal. Like, there are so many things that are based on other factors, like comorbid symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
that it's impossible to try to say anything with complete certainty, or even like partial certainty, without
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you could be completely off and wrong.
Exactly.
And people are so incredibly difficult to understand and so
Yes.
complex. Like, you laugh, but it's so crazy if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I'm not putting you down for laughing. I'm just
Yeah, no,
like,
I understand. I
I'm
understand.
like, this is so fascinating. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people, you really need to, like, oh, anyway. So, the rant over. Psychology is amazing. It's very interesting. But it will never be a true science. And like, that
Mm-hmm.
sucks, right? Because like,
Mm-hmm.
I've been put down by people before saying that like what I do is not real science, which I mean, it's technically not, but like, whatever. Um
Mm-hmm.
as it's said as an insult, when really, like, we have to see it as like, we are only given as much as other people are willing to give us. And it's it's fascinating. I'm serious. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's definitely fascinating. I'm so glad I asked you that question because I got to learn so much. And let me just say, my respect for you exponentially grew every single word you said.
Oh, don't. Oh, trust me, I have such a inflated ego sometimes about this stuff. Um, but I will quickly come back to Amesh. Amesh is very carefree, which usually
Mhm.
means that he. It could be two very complete opposites. It could be that he used to have a very strong sense of what he was going to do, and then decided that that was completely bogus, and that
Mhm.
fuck that. I'm gonna do what I want, and what I want to do
Uh-huh.
is nothing. um, or it was that he has never found something that has been important enough to put in the extended amount of effort into.
Mm.
He is very quickly to trust, which means that he probably hasn't been through any like extreme traumatic events, including um, strong personal relationships with other people. Um,
Mm.
uh, he has shown that he's willing to take the initiative to help someone, um, even without like a strong connection. Like last time when he took the rope from Matif, even though both of them, it was completely unknown what was going to happen, right? Like, obviously this was him submitting to something, to some kind of unknown force, and he took that, even when Matif was like, okay, we can think about this, like, let's find another way. um, he really stood true in his conviction that this was something that he was going to do for Matif, even though they haven't really, like, I think they went surfing like 2 or 3 times, and he was trying to teach Matif a couple of things, but they haven't really had like a strong connection to each other. Um, which really shows that he's a team player. Like, he is willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good of the group, um, which makes me think that he has a more utilitarian aspect, like on life, where like um, the most good is what we should do. Do you know utilitarianism a little bit?
Yes, I do. I am
Yeah.
familiar with it.
So, um, uh, it's a philosophy for anybody in the chat who's not who doesn't know. It's very interesting. Look it up. I love philosophy too. Very cool. Um, he um dogs.
They
Sorry.
wanted to chime in too. They're very interesting
Yeah.
philosophy as well.
They know. um,
You were talking about utilitarianism?
oh, right. Yeah, with
Yes.
Amesh.
Yes.
I think another thing with Amesh is that he really does take on the the labels that are brought onto him from society. So like he smokes weed. We've all gotten to that point, right? We all know what's happening. And he's not hiding it, which means that he is willing to take on the social judgment of something like that, without taking it as a personal attack on his character. Which I think is also a part of why he is so unashamed about his hobbies and what he cares about, even though it's not something that's considered to be important to most people. It's not even a part of most people's lives, but he's very willing to share that passion and drive with people, even though that might come with ridicule, right? And I think although he doesn't show it a lot, he's very intuitive into other people and who they are, that he knows when someone's talking and laughing about him behind his back. If I had to guess, I'm saying all of this like, and Merlin's probably gonna come back at me and be like, no, I made this up for this joke. This isn't part of his character, whatever. But I think he is. If it came down to crunch time, he would know who his true friends are, even though he trusts very easily. Because he is very
secure? Is that what the word would be?
He's very socially aware. Anyway.
That is so interesting. You are
again
definitely...
completely guessing on all of this. But
sorry, I do have to chime in. You are almost completely spot on with Amesh. Like, it's scary how close you're getting, and I'm like, oh shit. Oh my god.
That's what I've been saying. Especially even with Lucy, I was like, wow.
Alright.
Can I hear what you say? Can I hear what you say was wrong?
No. Hashtag
oh, okay.
But yes, very amazing analysis. Even if I might not be all correct, it definitely, everything seems logical to me. And with
all
Lucy,
I'm saying,
for sure, you were definitely good.
Like, don't go to the people on Twitter and be like, this isn't how Lucy is. You're not acting in the way that his character is. It's like, no, these characters are still property, quote unquote, of the people that play them. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. And I'd rather you guys go into who you are than stick to whatever bullshit I just came up with.
And if it was Lucy, he probably wouldn't listen to you anyway. He'd just be like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Okay. So my next question is, and might be the last question, what do you predict will happen story-wise in the campaign, on a larger sense and also within the group? Where do you think we're headed?
I think I have a little bit of an advantage over the others on this question because of last session. But I'm still making a lot of predictions that, again, are totally taken with a grain of salt. With our prophecy, I'm going to say that there's probably something high stakes coming, right? Especially with the political unrest that's happening between quite a few of the countries / states / continents. You know what I mean, right? Like the
Yes.
different places on the map. I just knowing Merlin, I know that there's definitely going to be some politics behind the scenes, some backstabbing. There's going to be a lot of I think because the countries are kind of segregated by race for the most part, there's probably going to be a racial aspect to some of that. And because there is so much social unrest between the leaders of all of these countries, right, that are probably going to start going to war with each other because of some of these treaties that are going to be broken. And like we saw at the end of the last episode, like there are already
assassinations.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are already putting towards those kinds of things. That we're probably going to have to put together a little bit of it, but there's going to be a bigger threat that we are all going to have to come together for, or none of us are going to win. And I think that's going to be a big part, is this sense of, okay, we need to convince everyone that whatever's coming is a bigger enemy than each other.
It's so interesting because I was just thinking, right? So as you know, Lucy is very into politics and social justice, and so he could definitely see himself fighting towards that. But unlike Matif, who has seen and kind of believes in this more fate where there might be something bigger, they're kind of Matif not yet, but it seems like they might focus in different directions. Where Lucy might be more focused on this physical plane and what's in front of him, while Matif would probably have to convince Lucy that, you know, there's something bigger out there that you need to focus on, even though you've been so hung up on this social justice of yours all your life. So that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, that definitely comes back to my one-liner, which hopefully someday I will get to say. But I'm much looking forward to it, to be honest, because I feel like Matif is definitely a forest before the trees kind of person, and Lucy is definitely a trees before the forest kind of person. And I think the group is gonna have to work together to bring them together and be like, dude, you gotta look at both, because like only looking at one is going to make it so that you're blind in one eye.
How do you think that's gonna happen though? How will the group bring Lucy and Matif together, if it's even possible?
Okay, don't tell anybody this.
Okay.
JK.
I won't tell you.
Yeah, don't tell anybody this. But I've written out a scene between Matif and Lucy where they lose their shit. And maybe I'll share it at some point. But in the scene, Lucy is talking about what he's fighting for, and that they can't stay quiet about things, and that like they have to use their voice as the more fortunate, as those who are strong, to be able to help those who are weak, right? And then Matif goes off on how some things are more important than few people's lives. Like, we are looking at like the scale of the world here. And like anyway, they're going off on each other, right? They're like yelling, and neither of them is even listening to the other person. Like, they're just listening to a few words and then making their own argument in their head, right? And finally, they kiss. Oh, that's good. That would be a better ending than what I came up with. And then Aoife comes in, right? And again, this does not have to happen this way. It's probably going to happen very differently. And Aoife kind of the bonus ending. Yeah, that's in the what is it? The dating
Visual
sim that
novel?
we're all gonna be in. Yeah, there's a TV show in the background with Matif and Lucy just arguing, and then they passionately make out. um, um, and Aoife's like, we really have to move forward here, because if we keep talking like this, we're gonna get stuck. Right? And that brings them back to like the present, where everyone's like looking at them and being like, come on, like if we sit here and argue with each other, like we're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. We're not being the adventurers who go off and save the world, like looking at Matif, and we're not being the strong people who can like help those who are less fortunate, like looking at Lucy. And it's the group being like, if you guys continue to pretend like you are right and continue to hold this anger against the other person for not seeing what is most important in your own eyes, then we are not doing anything to help anyone. Like, we are literally stuck where we are. And it's the rest of the group really bringing in the fact that, like, you guys are being stubborn assholes. Just pretend for 1 second like you are listening to the other person and seeing that both of you are right. But we have to and I think the one line I really liked was both of you are seeing the world with one eye closed, and if you both you can open that other eye for each other, but neither of you is listening with both ears. Like I think it was Aoife in the story who's like, you're only using half of your face or something like that, which I like the analogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and anyway, I won't go into it too much, but I think it's really going to be the rest of the group kind of putting both of them down a peg and being like, you are not the most important person in the universe. You are not even the most important person in this party. Like, we have to come together and work towards something. And if you guys are going to keep arguing about what that is, we're going to have to go on without you.
So they definitely need the group.
Yeah.
To get together. Interesting. So interesting.
I'll put that one back on you. Sorry to become the interviewer all of a sudden, but
Of course.
What do you think?
So I would agree with you as well that they definitely need the group to continue, because as you mentioned, both Lucy and Matif are very much in their own heads, living in their own atmospheres, and they both see the world very similarly. Like, they come from very different backgrounds, but they've, in a sense, become molded into a very similar shape. And so they have very similar outlooks on the world. And I feel like when they see each other, they almost see a reflection of how, if some things had gone a little bit differently, like I could have been that person. And for them to see that, it's very hard for them to accept that, just because both of them have given a lot of thought and sweat and tears into becoming who they are, because as we know, they're both very strong characters. And seeing someone who's ended up slightly different through slightly different circumstances end up very similarly, it's probably a little bit I don't know what the word is, but both scary to see that, you know, there's someone out there who's very complex, just like me, has a very strong mindset, and that person exists, and I don't know if they feel threatened or if they're respecting each other, which it could possibly be a mixture of both. And I think that because they're so scared to face each other, or too arrogant to face each other, that it's definitely going to have to be some external factor, whether it's the group or maybe even some external event that has to, start moving them in that direction. Because right now, I don't think there's any momentum going towards that direction. I feel the direction they're headed right now is towards splitting between each other and lengthening this divide that they currently have. So I believe that they do need some outside help in order for them to come together. And that's my answer.
What are your thoughts about Dante's tree visions? I'll let you go first.
So Lucy has been kind of not pestering, but he's been asking Dante questions every now and then. Like, are you sure you're not working for someone who's evil? How are these visions affecting you? And Lucy, he's the type to not pry, but he tries to say the right words in order for the other person to open up to him, rather than trying to force that of them. And so he's been trying that, not just with Dante, but with a lot of different characters. And he has his judgments, but he's not giving them out loud until he's heard it from whoever he's talking to, which in this case would be Dante. And I will leave it to you to answer now.
Okay. I'm gonna say it out of character because I don't think it's a thing that's really come up with Matif. Honestly, I don't think Dante said anything about it except for the first time, which he would just think like, oh, it was some kind of black magic bringing him to like a space where he could be like sacrificed for this one event, right? And these things happen all the time. But I think out of character, if I were to guess where that's going, I think that and this is going to be an off the wall prediction for me. I usually stay pretty true to what I think, but this one I'm going to say probably isn't going to happen, but I think it would be really, really fun if Dante's god is going to war, not like war, but like is going head to head with another god. And these visions are his god's way of like talking to him and telling him like, we are getting ready for something. This is what we're getting ready to like fight against. You have seen it firsthand. You know what to do. Come help me. And it's like this battle cry. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen, but if it is, someone owes me like 400 bits or something. I don't know.
That'll be so interesting. Dante's god calling upon him. Dante just becomes the Ubermensch or the Superman and just becomes God. That'll be really interesting.
The Avatar, right? He just takes on the persona of all that have come before him.
We're giving Merlin ideas. I'm sure he's very happy right now. And so before he goes crazy with joy, we will go ahead and finish our questions there. I very much appreciated your insight into all the psychology of our characters. It was a very, very interesting and insightful interview today. So thank you very much, Pastel.
Fun. This is great.
And so before we leave, would you like to once again #plug yourself?
Okay, so I am Pastel The Snake or Matif Thoro on Saturdays at Australian 10 p.m. Anyway, I am on Twitter and I'm on Twitch, and we have a Discord which we are trying to solve Escape from Limoncello's Library. So if you've read the book, please join the Discord so you can help me with that. I play sorry, I'm watching the chat. Jesus Christ, I should stop. I play horror games, I play puzzle games, I like mysteries and riddles, so send me those. I build Gundams. I was on Mini Makers this Monday, which was super fun with Merlin. Yeah.
Awesome. And my name is Usubeni Yume. You can find my poetry, prose, and sometimes philosophy on YouTube under the same name. You can also see me here at the other side, roughly around every Thursday or every other Thursday. And on Saturdays, you can see me as Lucifer T. Burns in our VTT tabletop game. So look forward to that this Saturday. And I will see you guys next time.